An enchanted rose that would bloom until his 21st year. And guess who turned it into a cake? This guy. Let's get started. The enchanted rose that would decide Prince Adam's fate. You know, I really wanted to do this two ways because I was fascinated with it when I was a child, and now as an adult, it's still here and it's still going strong with the live action movie coming out. So the first thing we're gonna do is create our bronze/coffee sugar piece details. They kind of look like the same details I placed onto my Cinderella cake, but I needed them to curve around, you know, the circular shape of the cake. So I taped two 6-inch baking pans to some poster board. Now these pans are the exact same size as the cakes that I'm going to bake. Then I grabbed a piece of parchment paper and then drew out a rough shape of what I wanted my sugar pieces to look like. Tape that backwards onto the poster board, and you want to do this backwards so that none of the ink gets onto the gum paste. So I rolled out some gum paste and I cut it into strips. Then I laid it on top of my design and just cut off the excess. Now I really want this to look like a broken antique, so I took a skewer and made it look like they were broken edges. Now I'm crisscrossing the strips and making it structurally sound, and all of this is being held together with water. Then I decorated it with some gum paste in a fondant mold. So this is very similar to the Cinderella carriage cake that I created. And both cakes I'm gonna give credit to Vivian Pham. I used her Cinderella carriage design. Her work is like #goals, man. I call this my sriracha mold because I use it on everything. Place in your fondant or your gum paste, and then you take it out and it looks so beautiful. And I'm using a 6-inch dome cake pan to create the top part of this art piece. The top part of this cake is a dome, so this should fit perfectly. Now I let all of these pieces sit for about a day just so that they could stiffen up and be really easy to work with. And then, you guessed it, we luster dusted it. I really like doing this. Now I mixed a little bit of vodka with some coffee luster dust and just started to brush it onto all of my sugar pieces. Now I know that the rose is supposed to be covered in glass, but I wanted to make sure that when you looked at this, you also thought about the room that this rose was kept in. You know, it's not just some living room in suburbia, it's the west wing of an enchanted castle. A room, I might add, is forbidden. Belle, why did you go? Always putting yourself where you don't belong, like me. So many married women, man. But it's not like they told me up front, you know, this is totally different. Now I'm using 3 6-inch round cakes, and I'm also using a 6-inch dome cake. And I wanted them to have this concave shape, so I used my 6-inch dome cake to make them look like moons. And then I placed the cake on top of all of the other cakes to make sure that it was the exact same size and shape. And then I started to ice and stack my cake. Now one of my favorite songs in Beauty and the Beast is Be Our Guest because I like watching the food dance on the table. That's really enjoyable to me. Chocolate cake has that sort of decadence and richness that I associate with all of those dancing foods. Was chocolate cake actually on that table though? Have you guys tried the gray stuff? I heard it's delicious. Now I wanted to add some stability to this cake, so I'm inserting 2 dowels just to be safe. I was really worried that it was gonna topple, but it didn't. Now I placed that in the fridge to stiffen up, and then I gave it a crumb coat and then a final coat of buttercream. Smoothing out buttercream is so rewarding. It's like, and then you use the scraper and it's as smooth as my dating moves. It's a lot of married women, but I don't know why they're not telling me up front. I placed this back into the fridge, took it out, and then covered it with fondant. Now I did this in 2 steps. I placed on the back, and then I trimmed the excess off on the bottom and the sides, and then I placed on another layer of fondant on the front. I don't know why I did this. I think I was trying to be fancy, but it was a waste of time, so just cover it in one piece. I don't know, it's such a stupid move, you guys. So to create my stained glass window, I'm using edible Wilton's marker, but initially I carved out my design with this. It's a sharpened candy melt. I was kind of scared that the rose was gonna get lost when I started painting, so I marked it with this marker as well. And then we got to one of my favorite parts, the painting. Oh, look at my painting dance moves. There's a lot of shoulder action when I dance. Now I took some white food coloring and I mixed in some red, green, and pink food coloring and just started painting my rose. A rose by any other name would smell just as sweet. And so I'm gonna call this a dank, because that's what it is. I think I overused that word, but I really like it. And I wanted to make sure that I painted each box separately on the outside of the rose so that it looked more like stained glass. And then I took some black food coloring, outlined all of my rose details as well as the rest of the stained glass. And then I finished it and it looked fantastic. Dude, this looks so fairy tale like, it's bomb. I'm doing this rose 2 ways, and the second way I'm doing it is through fondant. This is my first fondant rose, and I think that it's really hard, but there are a lot of really good channels on YouTube that teach you how to do this. This channel isn't one of them though. The whole time I was making this, I was really unsure of what I was doing. But it turned out alright. I think it's pretty alright. I placed most of the petals onto one side of the flower because I'm gonna insert a popsicle stick into the other side. That way I can just dab the popsicle stick into the cake when it's ready. Now after creating the rose, creating the stem for the rose was super simple. I could do this part in my sleep! And I've got like sleep paralysis and I've got like some sleepwalking incidences, so I've done a lot of things in my sleep. There was this one time when I called my ex-girlfriend and then I woke up right when her husband picked up and we never spoke again. So now I'm adding some details to the front of the cake using a lighter shade of blue. I'm just mimicking the design that I use for the bronze coffee detail. I'm adding 6-slits and I was gonna add some pearl sprinkles, but I forgot how difficult they are to work with. It was really pissing me off. So I decided to do all the little bead work with some icing, and that made me happy again. I glued my sugar pieces on with some candy melt. I was really nervous about this part because I didn't make backup pieces, and I was just scared that it was gonna crumble or disintegrate, and oh gosh. It would have been a nightmare. Now one part of it did break off, but I just glued it onto the cake as well and it looked seamless. You can't tell. I probably shouldn't have told you and you would have thought I was a badass. I inserted my rose and for a moment it was just levitating the way I wanted it to. I attached the stem to the bottom of it using some green candy melts, placed on the top piece, scattered some rose petals, and voila. The cake uses, oh my gosh, I'm excited. Just talking about it, I can't get my words together. It is as enchanting as I wanted it to be. When I was coloring this with luster dust, I kind of knew what it was gonna look like, but seeing all of this together is just, it's so beautiful. It's beautiful and the beastly. Well, I should have thought about that sentence before I blah. Well, let's see what you guys said on Facebook and Instagram. Gorgeous! You really loved that Wilton's leaf mold, eh? LOL. It's like my best friend. Actually, I don't have a best friend, so this is kind of sad. Can I just display it? It's too pretty to eat. Maybe I should just do a time lapse of it just sitting in the corner and just falling apart and decaying and turning into mold because nobody could eat it. That would be a really interesting video. You're such a star. I know. Now remember, I post everything on Facebook and Instagram as soon as I make it, so you can put in your thoughts and maybe they'll appear in the video. I've got 2 more Beauty and the Beast videos coming your way. Okie dokie. I love you guys. I will see you very soon. Bye.